Hello, CAA Hoops fans. I'm Bobby Broyles, joined with CAAHoops.com blogger Mike Litos with the CAA Court Report. As we take a look at the updated CAA standings, not much has changed at the top of the league race. ODU drops out of the four-way tie for first after their loss at George Mason Saturday night. Georgia State and Delaware the big winners this week in the middle of the pack, each team going 2-0. And this leads us to a new segment that we're doing this week called Mike's Top Rock Fight Performances. And Mike, first of all, what qualifies as a rock fight performance?
Well, it's the ability, really, Bobby, to overcome adversity. It's playing hard. It's rebounding. It's forcing turnovers. It's all the things. We're seeing a renaissance of defense this year in the CAA. Lots of teams playing outstanding defense. So it's the ability to shoot 32%, turn the ball over 10, 15 times, but still win. It's getting into that, the two-possession game we talk about all the time with 3 minutes to go in the game, doing the little things it takes to win basketball games.
Well, we're going to pick 3 performances each week, and beginning at number 3 on your list this week, Mike, is the Georgia State Panthers after their 2-0 week with a pair of wins on the road at UNCW and at Hofstra.
Well, they have that matchup zone, Bobby, that's really confounding the entire CAA. They've even seen it one time through in the standings, still unable to beat that zone. Georgia State giving an otherworldly 0.83 points per possession to its opponents. You're seeing games in the 40s and 50s, and they still cannot figure out Rod Hunter's defense. 2 big victories this week against UNCW and against Hofstra, both on the road, both in which they held their opponents to less than 60 points.
Georgia State climbing back up into the league race. And as we go to our number 2 rock fight performance, it's Jamel Hagan's our CAA Player of the Week from Delaware.
Yeah, 23 points, 18 rebounds, 4 blocks. He epitomizes the rock fight in that he allows the Delaware defense to take chances out on the perimeter. We see it with Georgia State that we just talked about with Eric Buckner in the back, able to eliminate defensive mistakes from the perimeter players. When you've got a guy back there that you know is going to have your back, is going to be able to swat shots, is going to be able to alter shots, make other players look bad, and then go grab the rebound, you have a distinct advantage on the baseline.
And Mike, you chose as your number 1 rock fight performance, George Mason's performance against Old Dominion Saturday night.
Well, was it really any question, Bobby, this week for the number 1 rock fight performance? George Mason, 12 minutes into the game against Old Dominion, they were 1 for 18 from the field. They committed 8 turnovers, had scored 7 points, and they were only down by 6. Just the ultimate in rock fights in that they were playing poorly, but they weren't playing so poorly that they played themselves out of a game. Eventually found their rhythm. Big second half run. They actually held Old Dominion without a point for 8 minutes and without a field goal for 10 minutes in the second half, and they were able to hold on with some timely free throw shooting at the end. The classic rock fight victory right there.
Those were Mike's top rock fight performances. If you want to submit your top rock fight performances, tweet either Mike at CAA Hoops or at CAA Sports using the hashtag CAA Hoops. Action will resume once again on Wednesday night with a couple of ESPN3 games, with Towson heading to the Siegel Center to take on VCU and George Mason playing host to Hofstra. Old Dominion look to bounce back as they make the short trip to take on rival William & Mary. Delaware plays host to UNCW, and Drexel look to extend their winning streak to 12 as they travel to JMU. And Mike, a really intriguing matchup, really headlining the midweek action, is a game in the middle of the pack as the Northeastern Huskies go to Atlanta to take on Georgia State.
Yeah, Bobby, I bet if you took a secret poll of all the other CAA coaches, they would tell you that Bill Cohen's teams are the most prepared, and he's the best X&O coach in the conference. So you know Ron Hunter's going to have his work cut out. And Georgia State, they're still harboring the opportunity to get into that top 4 and to get the Friday bye. They're a couple games behind Old Dominion. They've got a game left with Old Dominion later in the year. They're obviously going to have to win that one. But it all really starts with this game, and it's winning games against tough opponents.
And speaking of the Monarchs, Saturday it will be VCU at Old Dominion Part 2, headlining Saturday's matchups on the various Comcast networks. Mike, the first one was a battle with VCU, was able to pull away at the end. What can we expect the second time around?
Well, I think we're going to see a very similar battle, Bobby. It's going to be the rebounding strength of Old Dominion versus the defensive pressure of VCU. They're not going to have the 7,600 in the Siegel Center rooting for them. Conversely, Old Dominion's going to have 8,500 at the TED going crazy. So a lot of home court advantage here. Very important, Bobby, for VCU to take this game. That would be a sweep and thus a tiebreaker advantage over Old Dominion, as well as a mental edge kind of going into the CAA tournament. But you know Blaine Taylor's going to have his kids ready.
The rest of Saturday's matchups include Towson James Madison on Comcast Sportsnet in the Mid-Atlantic area. Georgia State play host to Delaware. Drexel welcomes Hofstra to the DAC. George Mason make the trip to UNCW in a televised contest on Masson. And Northeastern go to Williamsburg to take on the Tribe. That contest can be seen on ESPN3. Remember, you can get live stats, video, and audio web streaming on CAAsports.com. And also check out Mike's blog at CAAhoops.com. Now that we're less than a month away from the Virginia 529 CAA men's basketball tournament at the Richmond Coliseum, March 2nd to the 5th, go to Ticketmaster.com or CAAsports.com or your favorite school's website for ticket information. Remember, fans, once again to tweet us this week and submit your top rock fight performances, and you might actually see them on the next week's episode of CAA Court Report. Mike might have some people out there that may disagree with you this week.
Every now and then a fan disagrees with what I have to say.
Once again, he's Mike Litos from CAAhoops.com. I'm Bobby Broyles. Thanks for tuning in on this week's episode of CAA Court Report. Enjoy the games.